to this first Friday of the month. Linda Peterson, Chef LAPAGE, I feel like I just saw you last week. Oh wait, no, we aren't supposed to say that. So we were talking last time about kitchen layouts and how important they are, but before we do that, how's everyone doing?
Doing great. Very, very well.
Doing great. Summer's about over with, going into fall time.
It's my favorite season.
Yeah, I know.
Pumpkin spice everywhere.
Yeah.
My thing is, I don't know about you guys, I can't ever get up in the morning during fall. I just can't. I'd
It's just
rather
darker,
sleep.
that's why. Yeah.
Just, oh wow, almost 7 o'clock,
Yeah.
6:45.
Which I'm sure lighting has something to do with the nice kitchen layout too.
The Segway King.
There you go. With that being said, we were talking about kitchen layouts and how important they are. And Linda, you were talking about your HACCP program and meeting with Chick-fil-A. Is that what we were talking about?
I did the HACCP, but at the convention, Food Safety Summit, they had the gentleman from Chick-fil-A, talk about the layouts of the kitchen. And they said they were on their 8th one. Wow. I found that rather intriguing because they're constantly trying to revamp that.
Yeah.
So when they see problems in one design, so we can move that around, and it's mainly all about cross-contamination, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, of course, ease of movement for the employees.
Yeah, so efficiency of keeping your product safe, your employees safe, and your customers safe, as well as when the moving in the kitchen, like you said, as being efficient with that. So you're not taking multiple steps to do one job.
Right.
You know, we always spoke about in my kitchens, your hand speed. You know, how many steps do you have to take to get something done? Do you need to take steps? And you hear a lot about that with bars and stuff, like a 0-step cocktail station where you don't need to move, you don't need to make steps. Your ice bin's in front of you, your ingredients are here, your liquor's all to the side, and you can make a cocktail efficiently without having to move up and down the bar.
Can I ask you about the 0-step? Because
Sure.
in radio, it's kind of the same thing. In media, you want to have your control room where you're all sitting down, able to touch. I think it overwhelms me sometimes that there's so many components right there. It's a little bit harder for my brain to wrap. Is that a common concern or thought?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, if you complicate things, obviously it's always going to be an issue. So you want to make sure that whenever you're designing a kitchen, you want to keep it simple but effective. You don't want to add more stuff than you need, but you want your kitchen to grow with business needs or menu development and things like that. And so working with certain companies like a rep group like myself or like a Ford Hotel Supply where they have a whole engineering department that can help design, build, and manage that aspect of it really is a great tool to have. Most restaurateurs don't know how to build a restaurant. They know good food, good beverage, management, maybe some money management skills, but building a restaurant and building a design for a restaurant, whether front of house or back of house, is something that they might not be experts in. So let the experts be the experts in something you're not a part of.
Oh my God, my big pet peeve when I was a bartender. Go behind a bar that someone who didn't know about the industry tried to lay it out.
Yeah.
Oh, it was miserable.
Yeah, with bars in particular, if you have a big bar and your dishwasher is at one end of the bar, well, that's great for one bartender, but the bartender that's on the opposite end, they have to walk all the way down to get either clean glasses or drop dirty glasses off. Yeah. But a lot of people who design these think, well, a dishwasher or something in the middle of the bar might not be appealing to the customers. Well, they won't see it.
Yeah.
They're not seeing it. So what do you want? A better, easier, more efficient bartender or somebody that's going to be upset walking 30 extra steps every single time? Running into people during busy times. So there's a lot of little tips and tricks that there are experts out there to help you with. And we always say, and now the trend is going forward that, your front of the house is what makes money. So kitchens are getting smaller. Bars tend to get a little bit smaller now because not many people are sitting at bars. They're sitting in high tops or tall top tables.
Those are popular.
And those are drinks are going more towards the dining table as well. So with these smaller spaces, we really have to get more efficient in our designs with food safety concerns and at the top of mind, as well as your employee safety and your employee efficiency when making product.
Well, and you brought up a huge point that, just thinking about this out loud, if it's not efficient or it's not laid out right, you can cause some employee tension because you got the bartender going, hey, can you wash this for me? I don't want to walk all the way down there. And then that creates some problems too, I'm assuming.
Morale's a huge issue. If you're working in a disorganized kitchen, and you're not setting your employees up for success, how can you have successful employees? Right?
They're so frustrated.
They're frustrated, They don't want to come to work. They don't like working. They don't like doing it. And then you think they're not a good employee. Well, maybe you didn't set them up properly. Maybe talk to them and say, hey, what do you feel about this? What can we be doing better? So there's a lot of tons and millions of different aspects into it, which we're not going to cover all in this 30 minutes, but we'll give you little teasers on them and on little tips and little ways to really utilize the industry experts to help with not only your commercial kitchens, but your residential kitchens as well.
How many kitchens do you help with the layout of throughout the month? I don't want to say
Throughout
a year
the
because
month,
that's a little dangerous.
A few a month, I would
Yeah.
say. I work closely with Ford and other dealers as well, and they really help me with my job by sending me the blueprints or the specs of the drawings and things like that, and I take a look at them and go through them. And with shelving, like the shelving we have behind us here, that's where I do a lot of the designing, where they're just like, here's a walk-in, this is the space we have, our dry storage. Fit as much shelving efficiently as you can in there with tools, simple tools like our can racks that can fit on the shelving, and other aspects of our shelving that we can design to make the storage much easier and much better for the customer. So there is some of that. As far as me sitting down drawing and designing a kitchen, I do that maybe a handful of times a year, and that's generally just sketching with the customer, and then I say, hey, go to this company, they'll do official drawing for you, and they'll be able to say, this will work or this won't work, or they'll say, Mike's on point or Mike's absolutely out of his mind, and which either way I'm fine with, so.
Well, and Linda, you were talking about your time, we've talked about it at Bojack's and other places that you've worked at in Vegas. Have you noticed the layouts changing just through the decade, where it just seems like there was an in and out fashion throughout the years, and all of a sudden it's like, man, now here we go, this is a new style.
Just like, sure, with that.
Yeah.
I noticed with the kitchen we talked about too, with open concepts so you can see what's going on. Of course, the bar has always been, you like to see the shape of the drink. It's sell the sizzle, everybody's got the steak, so to speak, So, things have changed, and of course, drinks have changed. And now we're back into the drinks that was popular in the 50s and 60s, old fashions.
Tim's Cup. All of them.
And bourbons and all. So
Yeah.
those things has come back around or changed again. Of course, they put another twist on things.
Yeah.
It's never the same like it was in 1950 or 60, but now they're trying to get edible or drinks that taste like food. I was watching on the show this weekend. Bacon maple syrup flavored cocktail.
Oh,
wow.
I'll pass.
Yeah. Once I start getting to like a fried chicken champagne or something, I don't think I'm going to be okay with it, but to each their own, right?
So when you're looking at layouts in kitchens, I think the first question is how big's the building, right?
Exactly, yeah. So you're dealing with two kind of concepts. Your overall footprint, which is going to encase your front of the house, your back of the house, which is your line, your cooking line, your prep area. Front of the house will include your service area, including server stations, and your bar as well. That's part of the front of the house.
Yeah.
And then if there's any auxiliary, like a dock or anything like that, a receiving area in the back, that'll be your whole building. Then your breakup is, okay, well, how big do we want our kitchen to accommodate how big we want our dining room to be? Dining rooms make money. Kitchens cost money. So generally, dining rooms will be bigger because you're bringing in more money per footprint, per square foot than you are on a kitchen. So the trend, like I said earlier, is smaller kitchens to operate bigger dining rooms and bigger bar areas. So once you figure that out, then you can start figuring out what your menu mix is going to be, what your concept is going to be. Concept is key. You have to have your concept solidified, because based off of that, you're basing your menu, your cocktail menu, your style of service, whether it's going to be a Brazilian steakhouse where they're bringing slabs of meat and cutting it tableside, fine dining where maybe you need more servers and less tables. So there's a whole bunch of different little attributes that go into what your concept is going to be. Once you decide your concept, then it becomes menu. Based off of menu becomes equipment. Now, a lot of people like to go equipment before menu, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Either chicken before the egg, or however you want to do it. I was always a fan of menu before equipment, because if you have a concept, you can figure out your menu, and then you can figure out what equipment you want, and based off of equipment, you can adjust your menu.
It's a domino effect.
It is, absolutely,
yeah.
Once one falls, and some tend to be bigger than others, but once you get one decided, it's not game over. It's now what's the next, play in the game we can do.
So what's the trend now in terms of modern kitchens for the brand new restaurant?
Yeah.
So what do they like to see?
So we're seeing a lot more smaller concept restaurants, a lot more open kitchens, where I'm a big fan of the open kitchen.
Me too.
Where you're seeing the line cooks, you're seeing the food being prepared in front of you, maybe even actually sitting up at the food bar, watching them as you're eating.
See the cleanliness.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it because of the transparency between diner and staff.
Yep.
You know, if you have an open kitchen, you have to keep it clean or else you won't be open very long. So
Linda and I know of a couple of places that have an open kitchen, and they just go, you better hope for the best today, you know?
Yeah, and what a terrible feeling of a diner eating there, you know?
But the transparency is so huge, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. So I love personally open kitchens, but you're seeing a lot more of those, especially in steakhouses where they'll have the grills behind a glass wall.
The fire.
Yeah, you see the fire, the flare.
Sizzle,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, the flare of the kitchen. People in today's day and age where everything's Instagrammable or social media, people love taking pictures of people making food, not just the food on their plate, but now people making the food. And so all of that goes into a good or could potentially a great dining experience for your customers or a memorable one for them to come back. So open kitchens are obviously a trend that has been around for a long time, but I think it's going to continue to grow. Smaller footprints, a lot more sustainability with whether it's farm to table or sustainable products, things like that.
Boy, this is a big deal too.
I love it.
Reusable, sustainable products, reusable products, things like that, or just sustainably sourced product where you're not getting something from a big conglomerate. You're using maybe more local farms, things like that.
Yeah.
So those are trends that all go into your concept, obviously, and then also your restaurant design. Certain tables can be made out of recyclable material, so those tables might only come in certain sizes because it's a harder material to find, so they might not have availability. So if you're going to go that way, maybe only one table size is available. So now you're plugging that into your drawing. Maybe you can't fit as many tables as you wanted.
Right.
So again, all of this goes into when you develop your concept, then you can develop your design.
Wow. It's just really fascinating too. And I mean, it's all these things that really add up to that bigger picture of success, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, there's somebody watching going, well, CJ, my building's about 750 square feet because that's all we can afford.
Absolutely.
Well, you can still make it achievable and make it sustainable and make it efficient, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. I always loved working in smaller kitchens
Really?
because you had to be more efficient, you had to be cleaner, usually less people in there to get in your way. But I think the bigger area you have, the more you have to clean.
Yep.
Just like a house. Like if you have a big house, it's more house to clean.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
No, I'm right there with you, Linda.
And so I always like smaller, more efficient, tighter working kitchens. Personally, a lot of people like the bigger kitchens. I love looking at the bigger kitchens because they're beautiful. But I like the smaller kitchens, for what you were saying. Just, you have a small footprint. It's a little bit easier to manage. You're also probably not producing a bigger menu. Your menu is probably a little bit smaller than like a big chain restaurant that has a huge kitchen where they have 18 pages of menus.
Right. Where do I start?
Yeah.
Scares me. I go to a restaurant and there's page. Page. Well, it's not
a lot
all
of single-use
fresh.
items.
That's where I go
A lot
back
of
to
frozen.
safe food. It's like, I don't know, how long's that been sitting in your freezer?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you have one pork chop on the menu, and it's 200 menu item or 200 menu item on the menu. Well, that one pork chop's not coming in fresh daily or weekly. It's frozen in a box somewhere in the back corner of a freezer. So it can be, all that goes into it as well.
Yeah. Well, one thing too, I was always curious about is the flooring in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Because to me, I've been in back of the kitchens, but I had the delivery company where I'm going, I don't know if this is an efficient floor for the product or food that you're serving. Is there different types of flooring that you look at in kitchens?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say probably the most popular is your red tile.
Okay.
So it's red tile, usually a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch grout line.
Okay.
That's for easy cleaning. The grout has to be sealed. The whole floor has to be sealed for moisture as well. So easy cleaning, so you can mop and nothing gets absorbed into the flooring or into the grout to make it a not useful product and breaking and coming up. The other one is like a poured slab, which will actually coat with like I compare it to almost like a garage floor ceiling.
Like an epoxy?
Yeah, kind of, but like very grippy where it's not slippery. And then obviously based on what floor you have is all the different kinds of mats you would need for, one, personal safety, your employee safety. If you're putting mats on the floor, grease can be on the floor, you can slip and fall, but also employee comfort as well. Those mats are usually cushioned, so you're a little bit more comfortable when you're standing on your feet for 12 hours a day.
You got to have some. Behind the bar, they used to have wooden slats
Yeah.
that you would walk on, and that way things can go down to the ground and the water and ice that gets spilled.
Yeah.
So that, of course, they went away from wood slats to the rubber.
Oh.
Yeah. So, there are different types of floors, whether it's in a kitchen or at a bar or even, front of the house, you can generally use whatever material you want. Carpeting, wood floor, tile, single pour slab.
And then equipment. Our equipment, the number one thing, it's always on the test, right, is cleanability.
Yeah, exactly.
Very important. And of course, as an owner, durability is always important. Then I had one of my students say, cost to me is important as an owner. And I said, well, yeah, sure it is.
Yeah, I bet it is.
But
yeah.
number one is cleanability.
Yeah, absolutely. Making sure the equipment can be cleaned. One, that it's what you need. You don't just buy something because it's clean and you don't need it. But, it's what you need. But it's very easy to clean and very easy to manage. Yeah. If you have something crazy that's not easy to manage, it's not going to be easy to clean. It's not going to be easy to use. Yeah. And with those two things, those aren't going to get done efficiently. Yeah. So very, not simple equipment, but equipment that you can use, that you know how to use, and that can be clean. So that means breaking it apart. So if it's a grill or a broiler, making sure the grill grates can come off, so you can deep clean them, all the integral parts that can be removed. Too deep clean, even simple things like the little knobs on a stove. Generally you don't want them to come off because they'll fall off touring, but if they get really dirty and greasy and messy, you got to clean them. So easily to remove, whether it's just a little nut that you put on or a little screw, tightening screw, or they just lock in.
See, little things like that.
Something I would never even think about.
When I was purchasing ranges, and even now as a rep, when I rep a range company, one of the first things I look at is their handles, how sturdy they are, because people are beating
Mine
them
at
up.
home, I've got one now I got to replace. Yeah. And the other ones are a little broken. I put some glue on. They're all plastic.
So people beat them up. They, I mean, in a rush, usually have a towel in one hand on the line with your saute pan, and then a pair of tongs or another tool in the other. So what are you turning on and off with you're using your tongs? Boom, 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 real quick. Or you're grabbing them real quick with dirty gloves or whatever it is. And so cleanability and sturdiness, are all durability, are all huge parts of selecting equipment. And that again goes back to your concept, what your concept is going to be, what your menu is going to be. Then you can base your equipment purchases and your kitchen design off of that as well. And making sure that if you have a grill area, your ingredients for your grill area are by the grill. Yeah. If you have a salad area, making sure your salad ingredients are by the salad. And generally, they're separated because the grill area is going to be a lot hotter than your salad area. So you don't want a lot of excess heat near your vegetables that are going to be served cold. So you separate them. Same thing with desserts. Usually cold garde-manger or cold eating, or salad station, cold apps, and dessert are generally around the same area because it's all cold. They don't want them by any heated area. So same thing, if you're doing a lot of chocolate desserts, you're not going to have them next to a grill because they're going to melt. Right. So again, all this goes into your design of a kitchen. And then in between there could be saute, hot apps, fry station, whatever, however you want your kitchen to be set up.
Well, that's so interesting, and it goes back too because we always try to find a way to correlate things to all of your guys' houses too, and a lot of people are in that process of looking at maybe we've been at our house for 10 years, let's redo the kitchen. That goes into play too. Do you want a kitchen that you can enjoy and be able to move in, or do you want to keep pulling off oven handles, or oven knobs? Can I ask about a range hood? Yes. Because the range hood cover always scares me because I've seen in some of these kitchens, and I'm not picking on you, but I can feel the thickness of the grease or whatever's back there built up. Does that go into layout, or is that just part of the design?
So that'll obviously go into layout because if your hot equipment that requires a hood will need to be underneath it. So 6-burner ranges or any type of burner range will go underneath your convection ovens, your char broiler, grill, things like that. Now we do have equipment that doesn't require hoods. So
what are those?
An Oventtion oven is like if you go to a local C-store or something like that, convenience store, what they're cooking their pizzas on, generally is an oven that they don't need a vent on. So what it has an internal venting system that will, all the grease-laden air that's cooked in will be filtered out as clean air. So it doesn't need a hood system, so you can really put them anywhere. But they're also electric, they're not gas. Anytime you have a gas piece of equipment, you need a gas-type hood. Which is, there's two types of hood, a type 1 and a type 2. Some are different. In general, anything type 2, I believe, and somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure, is for
I'm just a type A.
For gas equipment, anything like wood burning, things like that. It's more of a, it eliminates the gas and emits clean air back into the atmosphere. Whereas a type 1 is more for like electric equipment, things like that, or recirculating air is a type 1.
And then Linda, in your classes, do any of your students ever talk about their layouts in their kitchens and have a discussion about, do you hear any of those type of insights?
They're not there a whole lot yet. A lot of people are just taking the class because they're going to set up.
Gotcha.
But the experienced ones, they just want to get through the class. They don't want to sit and talk about their kitchen layouts. But someone who really one of the owners, they will come and talk to me. And I said, in fact, there was one in Godfrey. I said Ford Hotel Supply because I'd like to get in contact with them because I want to change the layout of my kitchen because changing some of the concepts.
Yeah.
So, so it can be always evolving. Once you had one way, you may down the road.
Yeah, restaurants are living organisms.
Yeah.
They change,
Yeah.
within the same ownership, that will change restaurant names, concepts, designs, whether interior or kitchen layout design. And that's why you need to be flexible when you start originally designing these, because you never know in 2 years what's going to happen. I mean, people who open up restaurants in 2018 weren't expecting COVID to happen. And then when that happened, they had to go to grab and go, and that's a whole different type of concept, or delivery, and that's a whole different type of design for your restaurant.
Yeah.
So they had to be working on the fly and working, very quickly to make this change in order to keep their business open.
That was amazing what people did.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of bad stuff that came out of that whole three-year time, in the world in general, but in the restaurant industry. But what it did do was, I think it made a lot of people think outside the box and be a little bit more creative with how to do business.
To-go business.
Yeah.
Food, cocktails.
Exactly. Cocktails
and that
to
has
go.
stayed with us.
Absolutely.
Now
There's
because
huge.
just Illinois has extended that you can have cocktails to go. There's limitations,
Yeah, of course.
which you got to do.
Yeah.
But you can still. That's pretty cool.
Well, not only that, but just like the products that go along with it. We were talking just recently, right before, this hand washing station that's behind you. That's a product that came out of a need during COVID.
Really?
Because people were needing to wash their hands more frequently, especially in drive-throughs or in to-go areas. It was a big focus on hand washing, where you didn't want to go back into a kitchen to do it. You needed something that was outside, that was movable, that could work on the fly. And we came up with a product that did that, along with other people. Ours was the best, but other people's product was good. Shameless plug, I'm sorry.
Well, segueing into that, let's say Linda and I are going to start a pizza place, and we go,
My favorite.
Chef LAPAGE, we need you to help us lay it out. What's step one of that process with you or Ford Hotel?
Don't get into the pizza business. I'm just kidding.
Too many people are
Too
doing
many.
it.
Too many pizzas.
Yeah. So the first question I would literally ask is, are you going to be dine-in or take-out delivery? Or a combination of both? And where do you want most of your business to come from?
Okay.
Because if you look at a local company like Emo's, they do have some dine-in, but I would assume their majority of their business is take-out or delivery, right?
Yeah.
So what do you want your business to be? What's your business model? Is it going to be 60-40 split, 50-50, 70-30, however you want to do that? Cool. We
They
figured
probably
that
have a
out.
little bit bigger kitchen in there.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
They use very big pizza ovens just for their volume alone. They do a lot.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Well, that
their
makes
volume
sense.
dictates the
That makes
size. So then, second question would be, what's your product? Are you doing St. Louis style, East Coast style, Chicago style? Because just with pizza, Detroit style, that's 4 styles that are majority in the country, and each one requires a different type of oven. Now, you can do multiples on the same oven, but the times will be different. How it's going to cook is going to be different, so we can adjust that. But if you're doing, Chicago-style pizza, each pizza takes about 35 to 40 minutes to cook. So you need an oven that can do that, but also handle volume that can do that. If you're doing more of like a St. Louis style, where it maybe takes 8-9 minutes to cook, then a conveyor belt oven just to bang them out real quick is something that you can use. Or if you want to do traditional East Coast or Neapolitan style, then you want wood burning or coal burning, super hot. Maybe if it's if you're at a sit-down restaurant, something beautiful that's designed where people can see the pizza going in, things like that. So again, that's what's your concept, and based off of that, we base the equipment off of. And then, are you going to be doing salads? Are you going to be doing hot apps or cold apps? Are your hot apps and cold apps going to be out of the pizza oven, or are you going to want a separate oven for that, or a range with an oven? How much prep? What's your prep looking like? And then that will determine.
Wear me out.
Yeah, it's a lot of
It was
questions.
overwhelming to get a kitchen layout.
These are the questions that's
important.
not even scratching the surface of questions, because when you don't ask these questions is when you don't do it the right way. And when you don't do it the right way, you see a lot of failures. 80% of restaurants fail within the first year. It's just unfortunate that's.
Is it that high?
It was a couple years ago. I haven't checked.
I'm sure.
And I'm
still
sure
is.
layout plays a huge part.
Yeah,
in that.
just the pre-planning of
Everything,
before you even
yeah.
open up the doors. That's the hardest part. Opening up the doors. Most chefs and owners, they know good food, they know how to make food. It's the planning and the organization that they struggle in, which unfortunately is probably the most important part.
Yeah.
So
It makes tons of sense. And I think it's really important that we highlight those too, because, Linda, I'm sure you get tons of people going, man, do you know such and such that could help me with this?
Yeah.
Well, start at step one. You're wanting to put in this oven. Well, is that oven going to be good for you? Why don't you ask those questions first? It's all about being a good detective and really figuring out what you need.
Absolutely, and that's what part, getting people involved and getting the experts involved in, because what they'll do is they'll look at a building and say, you actually can't have a gas oven in here because it's a historic building. They won't allow ventilation out through the roof or out through the side. A lot of big cities like New York and I think Chicago now, I could be wrong on that, are not allowing side building ventilation onto sidewalks, because people would walk by and hot air is hitting them and smells and things like that. So most stuff has to go through the roof. Well, if it's a 40-story building and you're on the ground floor, that's a couple $100,000 to get that duct work all the way up to the roof.
Oh,
so
man.
what's your adjustment? What's your pivot now to?
Yeah.
And there's products out there for that. Yeah. So it's a lot of things like that you might not know the answer, but there are people out there that do know the answer and can help you and want to help, because our success is based on the restaurant industry's success, right? Your success is based on restaurant industry success.
Yes.
So we want everyone to be successful, or else we don't have jobs.
That's right.
Same here,
So,
because I need advertising.
Yeah, advertising, but places to eat,
Right.
things like that. And we're willing to, we want to help. We want to be the resource, the solution provider for anybody, because we want to see everyone succeed. All boats, lift on high tide, right?
Yep.
I'm sure I'm butchering that
No,
saying,
live to
but
be the tide,
yeah.
always. Well, is it like trends in general where it starts on the East Coast and funnels in?
For here, generally,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Most stuff will start east or west coast,
Yes.
and then filter its way in. And when it filters its way in, kind of goes around us up to Chicago, to Dallas, goes to Phoenix, Dallas, and then will come to us. Years ago, it was a much slower transition. We were a few years behind, and now we're maybe a year or two behind on certain trends and
Really?
things like that.
Well, and then I keep looking at our layout here, because I think this is important too, is that storage and making sure our containers to go, what we need. That's really important, because it's going to slow down your entire step. I saw the other day, you won't believe this, the lady answered the phone and then had to walk across the building to get to the POS system to put the ticket in, and she's trying to remember an order she just took.
Yeah.
That's pretty inefficient.
Exactly. and I'm not gonna lie, the cost of efficiency is a little bit more than being inefficient.
Yep.
But again, we're looking at customer morale, or customer service.
Yep.
Employee morale.
Yeah. And just overall cleanliness. If you're not organized or you're not efficient, it makes it so much harder to be clean and to be safe with your food product and with your employee safety. So products like these behind us, or any product that I sell or consult on, we first look at those. What's going to work for you? I'm not going to sell you something that doesn't work.
Right.
What's the point in that? It's a bad relationship we have.
Right.
And if it's something you want that I don't have, then I reach out to people that I know that can help. And so it's important to really understand that, yes, it might cost money up front to be more efficient, to be safer, to get a design done, but it's going to save you so much more money and hassle and issues on the back end that you're going to wish you spent that little bit of money, that little bit of investment into getting the help and getting the right answers, the experts involved. Then it's going to be worth it.
Especially if 80% of businesses for the first year in a restaurant
Yeah.
closes.
We
Man,
hear
you
about it
better
all the
get
time.
all your
Eggs in a basket.
Yo,
Yeah.
buddy. Yeah.
And you hear it all the time when a restaurant closes. Well, their food was so good. Food's the easy part in a restaurant. It is. It's the easy part. It's the managing of the employees, and obviously money management's an issue. But I
wanted that
I have that at home.
Yeah, that's a universal concept. But that's what really helped makes restaurants fail, or food service industry fail, is just they're not getting experts involved. There's an ego in this industry that's unfortunate, but everyone thinks they know everything, and I always say you don't know what you don't know. So find out what you don't know.
And before, because we've already been talking for a half hour, which I think is
Wonderful.
just incredible.
Perfect. Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you about the restaurant that's been there forever. The mom and pop sandwich shop that's had the same layout since 1985, and now it's time to change. That can be overwhelming because you aren't used to seeing anything different.
Yeah.
What's your advice to them?
Yeah, keep it simple.
Okay.
Yeah, just keep it simple. What has worked for you forever? We're not, when I talk to a restaurant that's like that, and they're like, we want to do, add this to our menu or do something else. Like, awesome. That's awesome. What works for you? Is this equipment brand great for you? You like it? You're comfortable with it? Go with it.
Yeah.
Like, you've been around for so many years. What I say is not, I don't want to ruin any of that. So what works for you?
Yeah.
Then let's base it off of that. And so with restaurants like that, there's a certain comfort level that they have. that's been working for them and their customers and their employees forever. Ted Drew's, perfect example.
Yep.
I sell probably one of the best ice cream gelato makers, batch freezers in the world. Made in Italy. They sponsor the Gelato Olympics every year. It's an awesome product.
Wow.
I'm not going to sell Ted Drew's my product.
Right.
They don't need it.
Right.
They don't need it. Their product works perfectly well for them,
Right.
and I will eat the product, so why would I try and do that?
Yeah.
Good luck. Have fun. I'm going to see you every baseball game I go to Ted Drew's. I'm going to get a
That's
Cardinal
awesome.
sin or whatever, So, companies like that, why try and force them into a box they don't need to fit in? Just support them. Just help them out. Give them information. Let them make an educated decision
Yep.
if they feel that it's going to be best for them. That's all we can do. If we start selling them stuff or suggesting stuff that's not going to work for them, it's a bad relationship. That we don't want bad
No
relationships.
repeat business and bad word of mouth.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And you don't want to hurt their reputation. Those businesses have been around for a long time. You have a responsibility to improve their rapport with their customers. So.
Absolutely. But before I go into our final close here, because we got a lot more I feel like we can talk kitchen layout a couple of times
Oh,
this
my
year and
goodness,
do
yeah.
a little bit. And I think we should, because it's always an ever-changing thing, and it's always cool to
Absolutely.
get an update.
Yeah.
But before I do that, Chef LePage, do you like a little flop on your pizza on the East
No.
Coast? That's
So,
what I was wondering.
I'm a folder.
Yeah, that's what I was
Fold,
wondering.
Yeah. We fold. Yeah. We fold. We don't dot, with the towel and the
That's
grease. No.
junk,
It's
yeah.
part of it. Eat it all. So, yeah, I grew up in New Jersey, so I'm pretty particular about pizza.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of the St. Louis style pizza. I
Oh, I
understand.
bet you don't.
I understand why people like it. It's your own style. I don't like Chicago style pizza either. I don't like to eat pizza with a fork and knife. That
little
seems
too
weird
much,
to me.
yeah.
It's not Thanksgiving
So
dinner,
yours
guys.
is in
Calm
between,
down.
huh?
So New York style or New Jersey style, they're very similar. New Jersey's better, but New York, they're very similar. Also known as like firehouse style pizza. So it's a thin crust, not tortilla thin like St. Louis style, but thinner crust, yeast risen dough, and then it has a risen crust on the outside. So
Okay.
and cut into wedges or triangles.
I like,
Yeah, and then you fold it and you eat it, and then the grease drips down your arm. And then when nobody's looking, you lick the grease off, and then that's it. We call it pie. I'll order a pie or something.
It is a pie,
Yeah.
Italian pie.
That is so
It's
awesome.
the perfect food. It's a round food cut into triangles, served in a square. Perfect food. If you're a mathematician, it's amazing. I don't know why you wouldn't like pizza.
Before we say goodbye for the weekend, Linda, what are your classes coming up?
Well, this won't be aired till next Friday.
That's correct.
Because I've got some this weekend, but it'll be too late.
Yeah.
So I guess we're talking about DJ's Pub in Jerseyville.
Yep.
We're talking about Turf Bar in Breeze, Illinois. And then on my way home from Effingham, I got a call to do one in, Granite City. Be a Tuesday, November 7th. Ooh. And then today, Miss Lynn from Boogie's in Maryville called, and she talked me into Sunday, November 5th.
Oh, you got lucky, Lynn.
I know.
Pulled your arm, huh?
She did, I did.
And Chef LePage, is anything coming out from your guys' line that you want to talk about?
Yeah, we have a bunch of new products coming out end of this year. Usually new product rollout will be starting January 1st. We'll start some Q1 product rollouts, so be on the lookout for that. Follow me on Chef Michael _CMA, or if you go to cmafoodservice.com, you'll see all of our product lines there.
And congratulations, because you're having a baby, literally right now. Oh, wait, no, it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
It's while
yeah.
we're taping, but you
Yes.
know what? Congratulations.
Thank you so
Big
much. I appreciate it,
congratulations.
yeah.
But most importantly, guys, seriously, you can utilize some of this stuff for your home, your kitchens. And I wanted to point out, Ford Hotel Supply was having warehouse sales for restaurants too, and I wanted to make sure that we mention that to all the Johnson's Corners and whoever's out there in the Riverbend listening today, just in case you need to pick something up. So on that note, have a great weekend. Try your best to stay out of jail.